What's up, everybody? I'm Logan Moody. This is The Contrarian. Today I'll be talking about two very significant things that happened today. One of which, the Fed announced that they are partnering with major financial institutions such as CitiBank and Wells Fargo to supposedly just do a trial run of their CBDC or digital dollar in the coming weeks. Also, Michael Burry just tweeted about how he believes gold could be entering into its prime time as the collapse of FTX and other stablecoins have completely ravaged the crypto space. So today I'll be taking a look into these two major events that happened just this day. So first off, the main thing is global financial giants and the New York Fed are rolling out a digital dollar test run as crypto reels from FTX's crash. Large global banks are planning to pilot a digital dollar with the New York Fed. These firms include Citigroup, HSBC, and Wells Fargo. The test run will examine how a digital token can help expedite payments. And we all know where this is going. It's just a very pretty way of saying that they're beginning to move towards a cashless society, begin to strip away any sort of privacy that cash used to provide people. And they frankly just want to have more and more control over the economy. But of course they're not saying it like that. But I'll continue reading in this article. Some of the biggest players in the financial industry are launching a digital dollar pilot program where the crypto sector reels from FTX's collapse. A dozen global giants, including Citigroup, HSBC, MasterCard, and Wells Fargo, announced plans on Tuesday to test use of a digital token for 12 weeks in conjunction with the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, with the intention of examining how effective a digital currency is in speeding up payments. Other firms also listed by the New York Fed include Bank of New York Mellon, PNC Bank, Truist Financial US Bancorp, and TD Bank. All of the firms will participate in the project and use simulated data in a test environment. Banks will issue tokens which will be processed through a simulated central bank. So at least right now it's purely in the hypothetical sense, but it is very important to point out that this is actually moving beyond the Fed. It's going down to very large financial institutions, in fact some of the largest in the United States, and they're essentially conducting almost a trial run of actually going about using the FedNow's program. And of course the Fed they've been very clear about it on their website. Now it's not always been, front page of the financial media. In fact, it very rarely has made financial media, but it's a huge shift that the Fed is actually considering shifting away from the existing cashless society and going towards a CBDC, which they've always insisted is just pure speculation, that they would never consider doing such a thing. But perhaps this does give a bit better of a picture as to how the actual rollout of the CBDC this coming year actually will look. It could take the form of eventually all the major financial institutions that normal people every day use in their daily lives, whether it's to receive their paychecks or to use their checking accounts or their credit accounts or anything like that. It could be the case where eventually just so many of the major financial institutions begin using the FedNow program to where it's really just impossible on a practical standpoint to exist as a consumer outside of it. So it's beginning to seem like that's maybe the methodology that the rollout is going to take, is not necessarily being forced on the average person. It's not going to be a very sudden transition to using a CBDC or digital dollar, but rather it'll just be a gradual shift of all of these major financial institutions towards only transacting with these digital dollars, digital tokens. And then at a certain point, it's almost you, the consumer's role to decide, where does your allegiance really lie? And of course, most people will go with what is the most convenient and easy thing to do. They'll go along with the CBDC. There might even be some juicy treats out there that are offered, like, oh, get a free iPhone when you sign up for the CBDC, or get $500 of digital dollars or whatever. I don't think the customer acquisition would be very much to get most people to jump into the CBDC. But that being said, programmable US dollars, they say, may be necessary to support new business models and provide a foundation to much needed innovations in financial settlements and infrastructure. So this is a nice way of saying that adding programmable features to the US dollar is, of course, going to give them a lot more tools as the central bank to enact policies that they want to. Now, do I trust them in any way, shape, or form to not infringe on any of my liberties with these new tools that they've been given? Absolutely not. They are going to abuse them very quickly. As you know, we've seen with other financial institutions, whether it's the freezing of bank accounts of protesters or what have you, it's very easy to infringe on individuals' liberties when you're not actually dealing with a government entity. Rather, it's just supposedly a non-government entity that's choosing this of their own accord. But it's just a bit of a scary situation that we're getting into with the whole CBDC concept and how individual liberties are very much in question with this whole idea. But they're saying that the project will initially focus on simulating digital dollars issued by institutions, but it could expand to include multi-currency operations and stablecoins. And of course, they're now using the test run. They're justifying it off of the latest blow up to the crypto sector, which was the FTX liquidity crisis and bankruptcy filing. And of course, earlier this year, cryptos also crashed because the Terra stablecoin collapsed. I've been critical of crypto for at least the last year, and actually I was very concerned about stablecoins, and most of all at Tether. Matter of fact, I've actually been a little surprised that Tether has not collapsed yet, because they very closely resembled all of these other crypto scam stablecoins which have already collapsed. But Tether remarkably regained a lot of its losses after it was shaken during the whole FTX crypto crisis. So in my opinion, it's kind of just a matter of time waiting to see what happens with Tether. I do think it does eventually blow up, because I do view them as a fraudulent organization, similar to whether it was Terra or FTX. There's the same standard of fraud throughout the crypto industry, unfortunately, and Tether is not an exemption to that. All of that being said, I'll now move on to another, maybe not quite as significant thing, but it is very interesting to see from Michael Burry, because he's long-term been not super optimistic on gold. I would say he more so views it as maybe a once-in-a-lifetime sort of asset that could prove to be helpful if necessary, if all hell breaks loose in the financial sector, which is in fact when gold has historically done very, very well, is when everything else is collapsing, when there's hyperinflation, when there's massive distrust of institutions. Michael Burry just tweeted this out today. Long thought that the time for gold would be when crypto scandals merge into contagion. So he is essentially saying that, maybe now is the time for gold to do really well, as smart money is fleeing out of crypto because they really were not there for, what crypto was supposed to be, this magical new universe. They were really just reaching for yield. So all of a sudden you have all of these institutions who were just reaching for more yield, running away from crypto. They're obviously going to look for something a lot more safe to go to. Your average person is also going to be fleeing from crypto. There's definitely the shift of people running into it, as they were last year, to running away from it. So perhaps now is the time for gold. It appears that Burry is saying something like to that effect. And this is very interesting coming from Burry, because he's been fairly skeptical of gold in the past. He hasn't necessarily been, outright saying that gold is, a dead and useless asset, kind of like what Warren Buffett has hinted at. But Michael Burry similarly just perhaps doesn't necessarily see the role of gold playing a very important part of people's lives in a normal functioning financial kind of atmosphere. But as that atmosphere grows increasingly more dark, as something like a CBDC gets rolled out, as other cryptos are imploding, maybe as the stock market continues to face increased volatility and people running out of the stock market even, gold could see just major inflows from all of this going on as people grow very skeptical of the trust that they used to place in whether it's governments or financial institutions, when they don't trust crypto anymore because that has been very tainted. Yeah, gold could receive a lot of inflows from something like that. So all of this being said, these are just very interesting things that I think are worth pointing out that just actually occurred this day. But probably most significant of all is the announcement by the New York Fed that they're partnering with all of these financial institutions to actually begin rolling out their CBDC. So it is definitely not a conspiracy theory anymore. But if all of you guys like this video, just consider hitting the thumbs up button, subscribing to this channel, and I hope to see you all again at some point.